Hey everybody, hope you're doing good today. Neil the Knife Guy here. Just thought I'd do a little bit of a cut test before I head off to work. I'll be using the Spyderco Endura 4 VG10 steel. I was going to do this just off camera for my own curiosity, but I figured I'd record it while I do it. I'll be seeing sort of if I could dull out this blade and then bring it back to sharpness using just a regular strop. It seems in my experience that VG10 really likes to be stropped, in that you could actually bring back the edge quite well, if not back or better than when you had it first sharpened. I'm just going to see that today, see if I could actually bring it back to sharpness after I use it for a bit, and we'll go from there. First off, showing initial sharpness just on some phone book paper. This thing is very sharp. It cuts phone book paper any direction you want to cut it at. I just actually cut into my finger a little bit. So no problem whatsoever. I got some cardboard here. I have this roll of cardboard also, or actually roll of phone book paper. What else do I have? Some window screen. I got a little bit of just your regular style wire, which has like a lot of plastic and sort of filler and braided copper wire. And I got a lot of plastic strapping. So we'll see what we can do, and a bunch of different style of cardboard. So we'll just get to it. I already know from my experience with this knife that it is a very good slicer. The grind and the blade length lend very well to slicing cardboard. And in my job, I do cut up a lot of cardboard, and I know from experience that this sort of solid style cardboard is one of the tougher cardboards to cut, at least for sort of edge retention. Oh my god, I'm gonna have a mess after this. Through using this knife, all I've had to do so far over the last week or so has been strop it back to sharpness. And really like a steel that wants to be sharp. There's some steels that you really do have to fight with to bring back to sharpness. This is my morning coffee here. And there's a few other steels that really just beg to be sharp. Actually 8CR 13 MOV really likes to take a good edge. Doesn't hold it forever, but it does get to that razor sharpness very quickly, and sort of that's what I mean by it wants to be sharp. VG10 is another steel that wants to be sharp. Then you have steels like S30 and S35 VN where you do got to work a little bit to get it sharp, but S35 seems to get there a lot quicker. I am trying to use the entire length of the blade just so I could get a consistent sort of sample out of stropping this back to sharpness once I'm done this. And I think after this little piece of cardboard here, I'm going to actually test sharpness again. When I'm cutting this cardboard, I'm going with the corrugations against the corrugations. No real rhyme or reason. And I am trying to make as many cuts through the limited amount of cardboard I have. So just wipe the edge off on my pants and test sharpness again. pretty much unaffected. See if it'll still do it the other way. It's not wanting to cut phone book paper both ways now. It's just doing it the sort of easier way to cut phone book paper. Try this again on a fresh sheet. It's still slicing, but it's wanting to snag every now and then. So we'll carry on. And this just really wants to glide through cardboard. I've been really impressed with this knife overall. Sort of struggled back and forth between wanting to get an Endura and not, and really happy that I did. You're a regular to my channel, you know that I prefer sort of smaller knives for EDC, but haven't had a problem carrying the Endura. Really like the blade length on this and just the overall handling of this knife. Let's try this roll of phone book paper here. Get it in frame. And that's actually quite tough to cut through. I'm just pulling out the inner core here. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work too well. I just launched that across the room. Might as well test sharpness again. See, it's wanting to catch in a good amount of places now. Just try some slow cuts. It's definitely a lot more toothier than even beginning this. And I do feel a little bit of edge damage on this. Not sort of damage, maybe just a little bit of a roll. Definitely right around here there's a little bit of deformation. Maybe go on to some plastic straps. These I do cut a lot at work, and some are thicker and tougher than others. Try some of this white stuff here. This is actually a good representation of how I use my EDC knives. Majority of the use I have for EDC knives are for at work. I do use them for my day-to-day life, but that seems to be mostly food prep, sort of on-the-go food prep, or just sort of your everyday sort of emergencies, like just let's say you're in a car and you need something open, maybe a stubborn package that won't open. Even with this plastic strap, I'm using all sorts of different parts of the blade. The tip here, the heel, and then trying to like sort of slide the knife to actually make the cut. Give it a wipe on my pants again. Test some sharpness. So it's not wanting to push cut anymore. But if you slide or drag the knife through the cut, it still slices really well. You can see that the sharpness has been affected overall. And then at the start, it was not ripping the paper whatsoever. Maybe move to this little bit of cardboard tube. What else do I got? Maybe some of this screen here. Make this more manageable. This stuff I found hard on knife edges. Tends to dull it really quick. I'm not too sure what this is made out of, but I know it's some sort of plastic, but it almost has like an emery feel to it. So that really did affect the blade. You can see right in the middle it wants to catch, and it's even having a tough time grabbing the paper now. Still no major defects in the edge, but I do see a little bit of light glinting off the edge, just so maybe it's a roll. And it's definitely having a hard time grabbing that paper. You could coax the blade through, but definitely not cleanly slicing like it was before. You can see there it's more of a tear. So that would probably represent a good day's use out of a knife. So I'm just going to take this strop right here, has green compound on one side and red on the other, and just see what happens. You can see I go from tip to heel and then from heel to tip. That's just to make sure I get the entire length of the blade sort of consistently. Just going to alternate side to side now. And let's see just after that little bit of stropping where we stand. Still a little bit of the edge. Just going to increase the angle at which I'm stropping, see what that does. Sort of just focusing on the very apex of the edge. Not using a lot of pressure when I do stropping. You don't really need to. You could let the paddle and the compound sort of do the work. It seems to give me the best results, and it doesn't sort of mess with that V edge that's on the knife. It doesn't tend to want to make it into a slight convex over time. Just going to switch over to the red side here. Just a couple strokes on that side. Much cleaner. definitely an easy steel to maintain. It's actually push cutting now. So this VG10 does respond well to stropping, which is a good thing with an EDC knife. You don't have to constantly sharpen it, and if you do carry the same knife every day, you won't have a lot of steel loss if you could just maintain that sort of usable edge. So it will slice phone book paper the easy way. Let's see if it'll slice the harder way. And it will. Maybe not. But definitely not dull, and it's definitely sharper than it was after cutting that sizable amount of stuff. I mean, some of you may say that that's not a lot of stuff to cut, but in the grand scheme of things, a lot of people don't use their knives for that many cuts in the course of a day. I just stabbed my finger. I gotta be more careful. Or have more coffee. So I think this shows how well VG10 responds to stropping after use. It's not at the level of sharpness that it was before the test. There's off. More scraping than anything. But yeah, so that gives me the information that I was looking for, and really enjoyed this knife. Every day I carried it at work. It's breaking in really well. You can thumb flick it, and every now and then I could actually middle finger flick it now. Just a really great knife and a really great steel. So hope you enjoyed this video. Just something I wanted to record just for no other reason than to record it. I was going to do this anyway. Now I gotta clean up this mess. So thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for more.